All right, beloved Madridistas, welcome back to the channel. Okay, our lads are playing in a couple of days. I thought we'd get caught up on especially the injury situation. Look, the FIFA virus is alive and well. This is something Madrid has been dealing with for years, every club really. Every time our players go off on international duty, at least one or two of them come back broken. It's a real problem, but very little the club can do about it. But what I thought we'd do is, we'll obviously discuss the Real Sociedad match, but I thought we'd go through the injuries one by one. You know, what do the players, what do they have, and when they're expected back. And I thought what we could do is overlay it against the upcoming calendar and sort of make a guess as to when we can expect each player back. I thought that'd be kind of a good idea. But we will discuss, obviously, the expected lineup for Saturday. And then finally, at the end, I just had a couple of additional thoughts on the whole Vini CNN interview thing that I thought you guys might find amusing. So I'll mention that at the end of the video for those of you that stay to the end. But thanks for joining me as always. Let's talk about the injuries. Let's get started. Madridistas, welcome back. Okay, let's talk about the various injuries because there's so many. It's kind of hard to put your finger on what's going on. I mean, it's crazy. But let's talk about the players one by one, kind of, you know, when we might expect them back. And this is sort of my best guess based on, you know, everything that I'm sort of reading out there. But if we go through them one by one, okay, Jude had a foot muscle injury, you know, kind of a rare one. But I think that we expect him back, by all accounts, by the end of September. That's sort of ballpark what we're thinking in terms of Jude. Again, we'll overlay this with the calendar in a second. Ceballos had an ankle sprain, but it was a grade 3 ankle sprain. I've actually had these. They're horrendous. I mean, your foot blows up. I mean, it looks like a melon. And that does take quite a bit of time. So in the case of Ceballos, we're looking at possibly 2 months away, and then of course he has to get back into match fitness, etc. Now Mendy actually is quite encouraging. He has been training. He had a right tibia injury, but like I say, he has been training and might be deployed on Saturday. I don't know if he'll start from the beginning, but I do expect him to be at least on the bench. So good news in terms of Mendy, because initially that was kind of shady. We didn't really know too much about that injury. Tchouaméni, very similar situation. He had a contusion in his left foot, but by all accounts has progressed really, really well. It wasn't as serious as they thought initially. And again, he is a possibility. We don't know. I'm not sure. I doubt if he would start on Saturday, but I do expect him on the bench. So kind of similar to the Mendy situation. Okay, Militao has a right thigh muscle injury. Now, they did an MRI and there was no muscle tear, which is a really big deal because that would have made it a much, much longer injury. But it looks like in the case of Militao, you know, they're quite positive. The latest feedback is quite positive, and they're thinking, you know, maybe 1 more week, something along those lines. Okay, Alaba, as we all know, it's an ACL, and the first operation didn't seem to go too well. So I don't think we can realistically expect Alaba until January. Okay, Camavinga suffered an injury in a ligament in the left knee. Now, thankfully, it wasn't an ACL or anything too serious. But we are, in the case of Camavinga, I think we're still looking at like another month or so. Okay, Jacobo Ramon, the young defender that Ancelotti was kind of hoping to be able to experiment with, he has a muscle injury. Not a lot of specifics about that, but by all accounts, it looks like something that might take 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, Joan Martinez, the young sort of mini Sergio Ramos everyone was all excited about, he tore his ACL, and in the case of Joan Martinez, we are looking at a very, very lengthy injury. This is going to take months to get this kid back. Very unfortunate. Okay, Arda Güler, you guys might know he suffered a knock playing for Turkey, and he was taken off in the first Turkey match, and we were all very scared about that, but it was nothing serious. Thankfully, he played the second game. I mean, I do expect Arda to be around Saturday, and actually I would expect him to play, possibly even as a starter. But now, if we kind of overlay it with the calendar, look, Tchouaméni and Mendy, I'm going to say, this weekend, possibly next weekend. So those two injuries weren't too bad. So we're going to put them on the calendar here. Militao, I think my best guess is that he'll come back against Espanyol, maybe on September 21st. That's sort of an educated guess. It could be sooner, possibly, maybe a week or two, something along those lines. Jude, by all accounts, I think optimistically end of September, possibly for the match against Alaves. That could be a possibility, and that's, what we're hoping for. Jacobo Ramon, in his case, we think probably the earliest he could come back, or at least be available, would be for the match against Lille. That's on October 2nd. Now, Camavinga, we have to wait a little longer. I think optimistically, maybe October 6th, the weekend that we play against Villarreal. Ceballos, unfortunately, probably won't be back until around November 10th, the Osasuna match. Alaba, we have to go all the way out to January to see him return. Theoretically, maybe the match against Atleti de Bilbao, which is January 11th, I believe. Joan Martinez, it's just too many months to even speculate because it's a very severe knee injury. So anyway, that's kind of where we are in terms of injuries. Now, for the Real Sociedad match, there's a lot of uncertainty because we don't know to what extent Mendy and Tchouaméni are available. This is sort of the potential lineup, I think, again, with the big question marks being as left back, Fran or Mendy. It is quite possible that he would start Fran and just sort of see how the match goes. And then, of course, the big question mark in the midfield. The midfield is a bit of a pickle. I see Arda Güler playing and Fede Valverde. And then, Modric, possibly, that could be an option. But again, it depends on whether Tchouaméni is sort of ready to play or not. And then up front, the one thing I need to mention, the three Brazilians, so Vini, Rodrigo, and Enric, listen to this. These guys land on Spanish soil on Thursday evening, and they're supposed to play in San Sebastián on Saturday. This is how much the FIFA calendar pushes these players. I have no idea what condition they'll be in, but I think up front, probably we'll see Mbappe, Vini, and then either Brahim or Rodrigo, and that'll kind of depend on, how they are physically, etc., from their travels. But this is my best guess in terms of the lineup, but there's a lot of uncertainty here, not going to lie. So listen, that's kind of where we are in terms of the injuries, when I see these guys coming back and what I think about Saturday. Don't forget, Anoeta is a very, very tough stadium. They play very well at home. This is a crowd that really, really pushes their team. This is one of the more tricky stadiums to play in Spain. So it's going to be a very, very difficult match. Not the kind of match that you want to go into with all of these injuries, but unfortunately, it is what it is. So listen, that's kind of where we are in terms of injuries, etc., and the lineup. Now, listen, just one final comment I wanted to make on, my previous video about Vini and the interview with CNN, etc. And I was just kind of thinking about this just as a kind of intellectual exercise, because the optics are so crazy that, you speak to Spanish people and they don't quite get it. But I was thinking, can you imagine, just as an exercise, can you imagine if this happened in, say, the US or Canada or the UK or Australia or something, and just as a kind of intellectual exercise. But just imagine, and again, this isn't political. I'm just throwing it out there. But knowing how the U.S. works, for example, how the U.S. press works, etc. Can you imagine that you have a young black athlete who, for the last 3 years has been suffering, some pretty nasty racist abuse pretty much every time he plays away from home, and this is documented. I'm not speculating. This is all on video. They even made a doll of Vini, and they put a noose around his neck and hung it over a bridge. The kid has had to face some really horrific kind of racist insults, and that's just a fact, right? Now, can you imagine, the young black athlete does an interview on CNN, and the next day, the white mayor of the city he lives in, who's in a position of political power and authority, comes out and falsely accuses the young black athlete of saying things he demonstrably didn't say, and on top of it, demands an apology for things that he demonstrably didn't say. Can you just imagine the optics in terms of power dynamics, how something like this would go down in the U.S.? From what I know, I can tell you what I think would happen. I mean, the mayor would have to resign immediately. I mean, the press would destroy this guy. He would probably have to resign. I think another thing that would probably happen in the U.S. is that, Vini would probably, because this is all, the accusations they're false. I mean, it's on video. Vini would probably file some sort of a defamation lawsuit against the mayor because, Vini is a player that has multi-million-dollar endorsement contracts that are contingent not just on his performance on the pitch, but his image and his reputation. So there's a lot of money at stake here. And when somebody with a loud microphone in a position of power is falsely accusing you of something, I don't know what the legal term is. I'm not a lawyer. Is it libel or slander? But there would definitely be some sort of a defamation lawsuit, which I suspect the mayor would lose. And he would probably file for personal bankruptcy and end up growing tomatoes somewhere on a farm. I mean, this is the way that this would go down in other countries is so different than what happens here. And look, I can tell you, and those of you that know me personally know I'm not lying, if this were happening to a Barca player, I would be the first to say, enough, stop it. This concerted character assassination constantly. I mean, Neymar, when Neymar played in Spain, he was annoying. I mean, great player, but an annoying little shit. And I would have never, ever wished upon him the kind of concerted character assassination that I've never seen anything like what they're trying to do to Vini. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And so I can tell you just from a human standpoint, like I would never want to even see a Barca player, go through this. But when you speak to people here, they just don't see it. They really do live in 1954 when it comes to these things. And, the press and even people that I speak to, reasonably intelligent people, they have their club goggles on and all they know is that Vini plays for Real Madrid. So they have to blame Vini no matter what. There's no desire to really pursue the truth or fairness or be objective. No. It's just Real Madrid, I hate Real Madrid, Vini's wrong. They don't care. They don't care about anything else. It's really quite extraordinary. But listen, those were just some kind of thoughts I had, after I did that video the other day. But anyway, that's all I got for you today. Let's hope our guys do well in Anoeta. But I'll come back to you with my thoughts after the match against Real Sociedad. But thanks for being with me. As always, love you guys. And as always, a la Madrid.